Our first placement was with us for 7 years. We've had placements since that were a few months, a few weeks, and explained to the kids that we don't know how long this little one's gonna be here with us.
The thing too is that when kids come into care, often they go through a honeymoon period with you in the beginning. It feels like you're building a relationship with those kids really quickly. And then once that period ends and the testing behavior begins, then all of a sudden it's like this kid that you thought you had a relationship with hates you.
Right from the very first day they come into my home. You know, one of the very first things I do, and I sometimes even have to kind of ask for forgiveness after, is I allow the kid to let their parents know, hey, I'm okay. Like that first 24 hours coming into care is brutal on everyone. And I can remember one mom saying to me, thank you for letting him call me. I just needed to know he was okay.
I'm Gary. We've been fostering for about 40 years now. We've had roughly about 50 or more children come through our door over the years. We're taking a break, but we still do respite just to keep our hands into it and also help those foster parents who do need a break from their kids. We started in as foster parents, and you're allowed to basically request certain aged children, and we opt to go with school-aged children. So it was a bit of a shocker for us when we got a phone call many years ago that they wanted to put a teenager into our household. Right after her, it flip-flopped and we actually ended up getting a baby. We weren't that many years away from our youngest being a baby, so we were able to swing into the baby mode very quickly. When we get a child come into our house, we have to recognize that we don't have everything that the child needs. I think everyone's gonna be basically a bit nervous, a bit anxious. You don't know what these children have lived through or had to endure. You always feel that moment or two of hesitation. Can I provide what these children need?
My name is Roxanne. I am a social worker. I work for the CAST team with the Alberta Foster Kinship Association, and I was also a caregiver for 24 years. Foster caregiver can expect on that very first call to feel anxious, and it's usually because of you don't know who's coming in the door. So that first call is always the most difficult.
Foster parents, you kind of have an idea what you want, say an age where you want that child to come into your home. But when you're expecting a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old and a 14-year-old comes into your home, it's very unexpected, and usually you have a few minutes notice, so you're just trying to get ready for that child. And there's a big difference between a 14-year-old and a younger child.
It's important to expect the unexpected all of the time. No two children are alike, no two experiences are alike. So whether you're a foster parent for 25 years, 10 years, or you're brand new, every experience is going to be different. You are going to feel anxious, but you just have to work through that because you have to remember how you're feeling. That child's feeling 10 times more anxious than you are. Some practical questions that we can prepare for as caregivers. What is the age of the child? Sex of the child? First time in care? Perhaps coming from a breakdown placement? Do they have siblings? A little bit of information on parents. Again, not the whole story. Let the child tell you their story on what that's like with their family. Where do they go to school? You may ask then, what do they like? And that might be not because you want to go and prep for that, but it might be a conversation piece where you can do a little bit of probing when you're first talking about the child when they come into your care. Well, I think when you're talking to kids, you have to remember you are a stranger to them. These are really the times to talk about who they are. So if you're talking to little kiddos, you want to talk about what are their interests. Do they go to school? Who are their friends? What are their favorite things? With a teenager, it's quite different because teenagers typically don't like strangers, right? And especially adult strangers. So I think you want to change your approach a little bit more to really, again, talk about them. And this isn't the time to deep dive. It really is superficial to start with. It's also not the time to start delving into families or what are the issues in the family. That's really where you want to start, because if you don't build that baseline, teenagers aren't going to talk to you. So a foster caregiver, to be physically prepared for when kids come into our home, first of all, you have to look at your environment. Kids typically need their own rooms. You haven't necessarily designed that bedroom for the child, but you'll have a pretty good idea, male, female, age. So have some things there that are inviting for the child. Look at your backyard. Do you have some play equipment? Do you have balls? Do you have something they can play in the backyard with? Do you have a bike?
I think pets are very beneficial for foster kids. I think there's a connection there. An animal doesn't judge you. It's nice to have a pet there. It just kind of bridges a gap. For those foster kinship parents that can't have pets for whatever reason, allergies, toys to me are really important too. So if you can have some age-appropriate toys, but just have that available if they want something else, if they don't have one, if they couldn't bring it. So really important, I think, to have those toys in the house, and even a few munchies sometimes just kind of breaks the ice.
Foster parents can be mostly prepared in the context of they know what they're doing, they know what their job is, they know that children are coming to live in their home. Can you be 100% prepared all the time? No, you cannot. However, you also have to check your own emotions. So if this is really hard for you, if you just had maybe a previous foster child leave, and now you have a new foster child, you have to check yourself a little bit, because you have to remember what your relationship was like with the previous child will not necessarily be what it is with this next child. So again, we talk about resilience of kids. We need to be resilient as foster caregivers.
I've learned through all the years that basically I like to think I'm in control of myself and the world around me. As a foster parent, you learn very quickly that you're inadequate, or you at least believe you're inadequate in order to help the kids with all that's going on in their life. Some of these kids, they come to us and you figure, I can help them. But at the end of the day, you realize you can help them to a degree, but you can't solve all their problems. You have to be adaptable, don't you? You can't foresee everything. So you have to basically really bounce with the punches. You have to come back to it every time. And I think all parents go through the same thing. They have to be multitasking all the time and trying to think ahead, but they're not going to do it. No one's going to be able to guess at all, outcomes. Do your best to advocate for the children that you have, to give them as much as you can give them, whether it's medical, psychological. All these children need is a lot of love, a house that will provide them with a place to put their head, a place to eat, a place to get companionship and love. First-time foster parents getting the call, just go into it with a positive attitude. Be willing to be flexible. Roll with the punches, because sometimes these kids will tell you things that will shock you to your core as to what they've come from and what they've lived through already. Live with it and provide that child with as much support as you can give them.